Preserving language is preserving human history. Kelly Crane. Lib 495 Capstone. Dr. Robert Engelson. May 8, 2019. Language extinction is happening right before our eyes. If we continue to do nothing, we will continue to lose these languages. Failure to preserve these languages is like a failure to preserve human history. Some people might say, so what? What will be lost once a language is lost? What have we lost already? What traditions will be lost and what traditions have already been lost? Language is a large part of what makes us human. Knowing the language of people from the past is like reading their thoughts and knowing how they lived their day-to-day lives. Simply put, we pursue wisdom through language and the written word. Although I acknowledge that dominant languages are important in the US and around the world today, I claim that because of this importance, many other languages have become extinct or are on the endangered list, and we ought to preserve non-dominant languages. Once the language is extinct, the culture is in danger of becoming extinct as well. It's as if the people, themselves, are extinct. There could be much to benefit from keeping a language alive for future generations. At the very least, there is great pride in one's language and culture, and we should be encouraging these cultures to remain intact. Language is an important part of history. Nobody disputes the importance of being able to record our history and traditions. Nobody thinks it's pointless to remember significant historical facts. Why are there those who believe that preserving a language is pointless? If we continue to have this attitude, what could we lose 100 years from now? Are we doomed to repeat the past? Words are forever evolving and new words are being created. For example, Google. It's used as a noun and a verb. How does this happen? Where did the English language even come from? Even more intriguing, how did we begin to speak in the first place? The origin of language is very complex, and researchers have not been able to pinpoint how language actually developed. There is only speculation. Even though many species have developed their own unique ways of communication, language is unique to humans. Nobody is really sure why we are able to speak, but maybe our anatomy has something to do with it. Our complex brain structure could be another reason. Initially, there were 6 theories. The bow wow theory, the idea that speech originated from humans imitating sounds that animals make. The poo-poo theory, the idea that speech is a vocal response to pain. The ding-dong theory, the idea that speech reflects some mystical resonance or harmony connected with the things in the world. The yo-he-ho theory, the idea that speech began with rhythmic chants and grunts people used according to physical actions when they worked together. The ta-ta theory, the idea that speech came from the use of tongue and mouth gestures to mimic manual gestures. The la-la theory, the idea that speech came from the sounds of inspired playfulness, love, poetic sensibility and song. The Linguistic Society in Paris became so annoyed with these so-called theories, they banned the various conversations. Today, scientists are using evidence from paleontology to determine when/how humans began to speak. Serious conversations about language origins didn't come about until the 1970s. One theory regarding the origin of language is the gesture-first theory, assuming there was a stage in the evolution of language when signs were simply iconic and pantomimic illustrations of the things they refer to. One of the main reasons languages become extinct is because of the push for monolingualism, the condition of being able to speak only a single language, as opposed to multilingualism. For example, the Soviet Union created a policy called Russification, where they wiped out any and all indigenous languages. Another example, when the United States forced Native Americans to speak English and assimilate into Christianity. The At culture is a good example of a language that has already become extinct, but could have been saved. The elders did not teach their children the language. When the elders were children, they were beaten if they attempted to speak their native tongue. Sometimes it is not forced. Sometimes there are circumstances where groups of people decide to speak a different language. This is known as a language shift. First-generation immigrants don't teach their children their native language because they want them to assimilate quicker to have more advantages and opportunities. Maybe it's just not so important to some people and their respective cultures. Sometimes the culture doesn't always die, but the loss of the language can cause an individual to lose their social identity. It's very much linked to pride and self-esteem. I think people take the importance of language for granted. What if we were forced to stop speaking English in the United States? Personally, I would feel defeated. Out of approximately 7,000 languages in the world, 40% of them are threatened. Approximately 2,500 languages are in danger of becoming extinct. The world's most endangered languages: Irish Gaelic, Creamchick, Okanagan Colville, THESIS, Ainu, Rapa Nui, Yaghan, Saami. Irish Gaelic, there are 40,000 estimated speakers. There are several communities in Ireland where Irish is the primary language. There are efforts put in place by the government to require Irish students to speak the language. Even with the government efforts, the language is still classified as vulnerable. Creamchick, this language is spoken by people in Crimea, a peninsula of Ukraine. People born during or after the 1930s have retained fluency. There were only 200 estimated speakers alive when the research was conducted in 2007. Okanagan Colville, one of hundreds of Native American languages considered endangered. Spoken in British Columbia and Canada. It's estimated only 150 native speakers remain. However, there are a number of resources to help preserve the language. THESIS, an endangered language that is spoken throughout Botswana. Today, it's believed that it is only spoken in one village called Mababe. It's estimated that there are currently less than 200 native speakers. Children in the village feel more comfortable speaking in Setswana or English. Ainu, this language is spoken by a native group in Japan. The language is critically endangered as there are only 10 native speakers. Knowledge of the language is not enough to sustain it when all fluent speakers are gone. Rapa Nui, this language is spoken on Easter Island. This language is endangered because the population of speakers is isolated on the island. It's estimated that under 3,000 native speakers remain. Spanish is becoming the more dominant language. Yaghan, this is an indigenous language of Chile. There was only one remaining native speaker when the research was conducted. Some may be familiar with the language but not fluent. Saami, this is a family of languages, spoken in the northern regions of Norway, Sweden, Finland and Russia. Some of the languages in this family have speakers remaining only in the single digits. The languages aren't usually spoken outside the home. An extinct language is a language that no longer has any speakers. A dead language is one that is no longer the native language of the community, even if it's still in use. An example of this is Latin. Extinct language examples: Chorotega, Lenca, Menimbo, Proloxi, Kalasa, Ak. Dead language examples: Latin, Sanskrit, Livonian, Old Norse, Lawa. Preserving language is important because it is the key to preserving group identity. What else are we preserving when we save a language? Maybe there is vital information in the language. It is an important piece of human history. Many languages have either become extinct or on the verge of becoming extinct. Once the language is extinct, the culture usually follows. We should be motivated to save the language and any important information embedded within. Preserving a language is preserving an important part of human history. Saving languages means saving people.